She invited me to her birthday dinner, said she wanted me to meet her friends. I helped set the reservation and even brought the cake. After dinner, when the bill came, she looked at me and said, "You've got this, right?" I pulled her aside and asked if she was serious. She smiled and said, "Please, this is the only way a guy like you gets to sit at a table like this." I didn't say a word, just walked out. 3 days later, she was at my door crying that I ruined her birthday. This happened last weekend, and I'm still pissed about it. I, 32M, met Sophia, 28F, through mutual friends about 2 months ago. We'd gone on 5 dates and things seemed to be going well. She's attractive, works in corporate sales, and carries herself with this confident energy that I found appealing. Our dates had been normal: dinner, drinks, a movie, and we'd always split the bill or took turns paying. I work as an electrician for a commercial contractor. Good, steady work that pays the bills and then some. I'm not rich by any means, but I do all right. I've got my own place, a reliable truck, and no debt. My old man taught me the value of honest work and living within my means. Last week, Sophia mentioned her birthday was coming up. She said she was getting a group of friends together for dinner and wanted me to join them. "I'd really like you to meet my friends," she said, smiling over coffee. "It's just dinner at Costello's. Nothing fancy." It was, in fact, fancy. Costello's is one of those upscale Italian places downtown where you need reservations weeks in advance. Not Michelin star expensive, but definitely a special occasion restaurant. "Sounds great," I said. "Just let me know what time." "Actually," she said, looking slightly embarrassed, "they're being weird about the reservation. Would you mind calling? They said they need a credit card to hold it, and I don't have a credit card." That should have been my first red flag, but I didn't think much of it. Some people avoid credit cards, right? So I called and made the reservation for 8 people at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday. The hostess explained they only use the card for no-shows, with a $25 per person cancellation fee if we didn't come, but the actual bill would be paid at the restaurant. Standard stuff. "One more thing," she texted me later. "Could you maybe pick up a cake? It's kind of tradition for my birthday." No problem. I went to a nice bakery and spent $75 on a chocolate mousse cake with "Happy Birthday, Sophia" written across it. Left it with the restaurant when I arrived. I got there about 10 minutes early, dressed in my nicest clothes: dark jeans, button-down shirt, leather shoes. The hostess took the cake and said they'd bring it out after dinner. Sophia arrived with her friends, 3 other couples, all dressed much nicer than me. Designer clothes, expensive watches, the works. I immediately felt underdressed. "Everyone, this is Matt," Sophia introduced me briefly before diving into conversation with her friends. Throughout the night, I tried to engage with the group, but it was clear I wasn't really part of their circle. They all worked in finance, marketing, or tech, and talked about things that screamed money. Someone's new BMW, another person's vacation property, the exclusive gym they all belonged to. I'm comfortable with who I am, but I definitely felt like the odd man out. Sophia barely spoke to me, sitting at the opposite end of the table, laughing extra loud at some guy's jokes. When she did acknowledge me, it was to ask me to take photos of the group. I noticed everyone was ordering freely. Multiple appetizers, expensive entrees, and several bottles of wine. I wasn't keeping track, but I could tell this was adding up to a pricey night. I assumed either Sophia was covering it, her birthday after all, or everyone would split their own tabs. After dinner, the server brought out the cake I'd bought. Everyone sang "Happy Birthday," and Sophia seemed genuinely pleased with the cake. It was the first real acknowledgement I'd gotten all night. Then the check came. The server placed the leather folder discreetly on the table. Before anyone could reach for it, Sophia looked directly at me from across the table. "Matt's got this, right, babe?" she said sweetly. The table went quiet. Everyone looked at me. I hadn't seen the total, but based on what we'd ordered, I knew we were talking well over $900. What?" I said, genuinely confused. "The bill?" she said, like I was being dense. "You're covering it, right? Can I talk to you for a second?" I said, trying to keep my voice level. We stepped away from the table, over to a quiet corner. "What's going on?" I asked. "We never discussed me paying for everyone." She dropped the sweet act immediately. Her smile faded, replaced by a cold stare. "Look, I thought you understood the situation," she said. "You made the reservation. You brought the cake. Because you asked me to." I said, "That doesn't mean I agreed to pay for 8 people at a fancy restaurant. That's like $1,000 bucks." She glanced back at her friends. then leaned in closer. "Don't make a scene," she said quietly. "Just pay the bill and we'll talk about it later." "No, we'll talk about it now," I insisted. "This isn't right, Sophia." She sighed impatiently. "Fine, you want honesty? Those people over there," she nodded toward the table, "are important to me. They're my actual social circle. You're just, you know." She waved her hand dismissively. "Someone I've been seeing casually." "So why am I here?" I asked, though I was starting to see the picture. She rolled her eyes. "Because Jason backed out and I needed someone to cover the bill, obviously." "Please," she added with a smirk, "this is the only way a guy like you gets to sit at a table like this. Consider it the price of admission." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "A guy like me?" "Don't act offended," she said. "You drive a pickup truck and fix wiring for a living. These people," she gestured toward the table again, "wouldn't normally socialize with someone like you. No offense." I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked straight out of the restaurant. My face burned with humiliation as I pushed through the door and hit the cool night air. I made it halfway to my truck before I stopped. Her words kept echoing in my head. "A guy like you." The casual disdain in her voice. The assumption that I should be grateful for the opportunity to spend my hard-earned money on her and her snobby friends. Before I knew what I was doing, I turned around and marched back into the restaurant. Sophia was still standing where I'd left her, now looking annoyed and typing on her phone. "Oh good, you're back," she said without looking up. "They're getting impatient." "Yeah, I'm back," I said. "I forgot something." She finally looked up, relief visible on her face. "So you'll take care of it?" I smiled. "Oh, I'll take care of it." I walked past her, straight back to the table where her friends were sitting, now looking uncomfortable as they glanced at their phones and watches. "Hey everyone," I said loud enough for neighboring tables to hear. "I just wanted to let you all know what's going on. Sophia invited me to her birthday dinner without ever mentioning I'd be expected to pay for 8 people I'd just met. When I questioned this, she informed me that paying for all of you was the only way a guy like me gets to sit at a table like this." Their faces registered shock. One woman's jaw literally dropped. "Apparently," I continued, "I'm just the replacement for someone named Jason who backed out. My only purpose here was to pay the bill." "Matt, stop it," Sophia hissed, now standing beside me. I ignored her. "So since I'm just the wallet for tonight and not an actual guest, I'll be leaving. The reservation is under my name though, so good luck figuring that out. Enjoy the cake, I already paid for that." I turned to leave, but then stopped and addressed her friends one more time. "Oh, and just so you know, being an electrician means I make about $42 an hour, plus overtime and benefits. I'm not a doctor or lawyer, but I do honest work and I can afford my life without using people. Maybe Sophia should try that sometime." And with that, I walked out, for real this time. The moment I got to my truck, my phone exploded with texts from Sophia. "WTF is wrong with you? You can't just leave us with the bill. Get back here right now. The server is asking who's paying. You've humiliated me in front of my friends." I didn't respond to any of them. I drove home, threw back a whiskey, and blocked her number. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. Monday morning, I showed up at my current job site, a major renovation of an office building downtown. I was discussing the day's work with my crew when the project manager came over. "Matt, there's someone here to see you," he said, looking confused. "Says it's urgent." I walked to the site entrance, and there was Sophia, wearing designer sunglasses and looking completely out of place among the construction equipment. The security guard was already eyeing her suspiciously. We had strict protocols about unauthorized visitors due to safety regulations and insurance requirements. "You need to pay me back," she said the moment she saw me. "Excuse me?" I couldn't believe the nerve. "You owe me $1,250, she said, pulling out her phone. "That's the dinner bill, plus the tip I had to pay because you embarrassed me in front of everyone." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You're kidding, right?" "Do I look like I'm kidding?" she snapped. "You agreed to pay by making the reservation. That's how it works." "That's not how anything works," I said. "You tried to use me as an ATM. You invited me to dinner under false pretenses. You insulted me to my face. And now you're at my job demanding money? You need to leave." "I'm not leaving until you pay me back," she insisted. "Ma'am, you need to leave the construction site," the security guard intervened, having overheard our conversation. "This is a hard hat area, and you're not authorized to be here." "Do you know who my father is?" she threatened. The classic line. Don't care, the guard replied. Site rules applied to everyone. As security escorted her out, she shouted back at me, "This isn't over." I thought it was just talk until that evening, when I got home and found a formal-looking letter taped to my door. It was from a law firm demanding I pay $1,250 to Sophia Lambert for expenses incurred or face legal action. Now, I was pissed. This had gone from embarrassing to harassment. I took photos of the letter and called my buddy Chris, who happens to be an attorney. "This is bullshit," he said after I explained the situation. "That's not how contracts work. Making a reservation doesn't obligate you to pay for everyone, especially when it was clearly deceptive. Even if they tried to charge your card for the cancellation fee, that would only be $200 total for a no-show, not the full dinner bill. Also, this letterhead is suspicious. Let me look into this firm." 2 hours later, Chris called back. "Just as I thought, this isn't a real law firm. It's just a template letter she downloaded and modified. The address exists, but it's a virtual office space, not a law firm. She's bluffing." Armed with this information and increasingly annoyed, I decided it was time to end this. I used my lunch break the next day to drive to Sophia's workplace, the sales office for a luxury condo development. I'd never been there before, but she'd mentioned it enough times. I walked into the sleek reception area and asked for Sophia Lambert. The receptionist called her, and minutes later, Sophia emerged from an office, freezing when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, glancing around nervously. "We need to talk," I said calmly. "About this fake legal letter and your visit to my job site." She pulled me into an empty meeting room. "Keep your voice down," she warned. "My boss doesn't need to hear this." "Oh, I think he might be interested," I said. "Along with the actual police, impersonating a law firm is fraud, Sophia, and harassment at my workplace could get you a restraining order." Her face paled. "You wouldn't." "Try me," I said. "I have the fake legal letter, security footage from my job site, and all your texts. What do you think happens if I file a police report or talk to your boss about how you're spending your workdays?" She sat down heavily in one of the chairs. "What do you want?" "I want this to end," I said firmly. "No more demands for money. No more showing up at my job. No more fake legal threats. We're done. Move on." "Fine," she muttered. And I added, "I want you to apologize. Not to me, I don't care anymore, but to your friends. Tell them the truth about what you tried to pull." "No way," she protested. "I can't do that." "Then I guess I'll be talking to the police. And your boss. Maybe your dad too, since you were so quick to invoke his name." We stared at each other for a long moment before she finally broke. "Fine," she said through gritted teeth. "I'll tell them the truth." "Send me proof when you do," I said, turning to leave. "Screenshots of the group text or whatever. Then we're done for good." That evening, I received an email from Sophia with screenshots of a group text to her friends. "I need to come clean about Saturday night. Matt didn't agree to pay for dinner. I tried to trick him into covering it because I'm broke right now. He had every right to walk out, and I'm sorry I put all of you in that awkward position." One friend replied, "UTF, Sophia, this is the third time you've pulled something like this." Another wrote, "So we all paid $150 each for your birthday dinner because you lied? Not cool." A third message simply said, "You're uninvited from my wedding. I'm not even kidding." I almost felt bad for her. Almost. At least now I knew what happened with the bill. Her friends had to split it among themselves. 3 days after the dinner fiasco, there was a knock at my door around 8 p.m. I checked the peephole and saw Sophia standing there, looking nothing like the confident woman I'd met 2 months ago. Her eyes were puffy from crying, her hair pulled back messily. I reluctantly opened the door. "You've ruined everything," she said immediately, her voice cracking. "My friends are ignoring me. Jason broke things off completely. My boss overheard us, and now he's watching me like a hawk." "That sounds like a you problem," I replied coolly. "You humiliated me on my birthday," she continued. "Was that really necessary? You could have just paid and never called me again." "So you could do the same thing to the next guy?" I asked. "No thanks. Sometimes lessons need to be learned the hard way." "I can't believe I ever went out with someone like you," she said, the old attitude briefly returning. "Someone like me?" I repeated with a slight smile. "You mean someone who works hard, pays his own bills, and doesn't use people? Yeah, I can see how that would be confusing for you." She stared at me for a long moment, then her shoulders slumped. "I really am broke," she admitted quietly. My car payment is overdue, and my credit cards are maxed out. I've been faking it for so long, I don't know how to stop. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy, but I remembered how easily she dismissed me as beneath her and her friends. Get some help, Sophia, I said. Financial counseling, therapy, whatever you need, but don't ever contact me again. I closed the door gently but firmly. Through it, I heard her cry, "You ruined my birthday," before her footsteps retreated down the hallway. The next day, I received a package. Inside was $75 cash and a note that simply said, "For the cake." I donated the money to the apprenticeship program at the local trade school. Seemed fitting somehow. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags earlier. The way she always talked about expensive things, but never paid for them. How she'd ask questions about my income but get vague about her own. The friend who couldn't make it to any of our dates. But sometimes you need a hard lesson to see what's right in front of you. And sometimes the best revenge isn't just walking away. It's making sure the other person faces the consequences of their actions. I've got a date this weekend with a woman I met at my favorite coffee shop. She's a nurse, drives a 10-year-old Honda, and suggested we go Dutch on our first date to keep things simple. Sounds perfect to me. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the comments and support. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I could have just walked out and blocked her, but she escalated by coming to my workplace and sending fake legal threats. That crossed a line. 2. No, I don't feel bad about making her tell her friends the truth. Actions have consequences. 3. For those saying I should have just paid, would you say the same if the genders were reversed? Nobody should be tricked into paying a $1,000 plus dinner bill for strangers. 4. Several people asked about the cake. Yes, it was delicious. They boxed up what was left, and apparently her friends took it home. At least something good came out of that night.